everybody, welcome to Stamping with Melva. Today I want to show you a technique for using your dies to one, create stencils, and two, what you can use with the reverse image of those pieces once you've used it as a stencil. So I shared on a recent blog hop for blogging with friends, and it was Red Hot Love, and so the theme was a monochromatic red card. And so I created a stencil using a die from the Always in My Heart bundle, and that's how I created my card for that one. And now I'm using the reverse image. So let me show you how I made it. Just we'll switch over to my desktop and we'll get started. Okay. So first of all, this is the card that I'm showing to you. So this is die cut. And this was the leftover piece from my card that I shared on the Red Hot Love themed blog hop. So this was the card I made. So you can see that I used this piece to stencil, and I used it as a stencil, and then I just used my blending brushes, to just color over it when I had this piece in place. So that's one way to use your dies, is to actually use the stencil image to create the image on your card. So now I was left over with this beautiful heart and background heart. And so I thought, now what can I do with that? So that's what I want to show you today. So I've gone ahead and cut out, well, first of all, this is the Always in My Heart bundle from Stampin' Up. So really pretty stamp set, as well as a set of dies for some of these flowers, as well as a great banner. I love this banner, and I'll show you how to use that. And then this one is the one I used as the stencil. So such a pretty image with the detail flowers around it. And you need to think about this stamp set not just for Halloween. There's a happy anniversary, which is what I've used on my card. It could be for a wedding card. Lots of ways to use this that doesn't have to be around Valentine's Day. Okay, so what I want to do is I've cut this out, and I'm taking real red, and now my blending brushes. These blending brushes are in the mini catalog. I've been using them. I haven't washed them recently, and so they are colored. When you wash them, the majority of this dye will come out. It is amazing how much of the dye comes out. These are not foam. They are not replaceable, the heads, but like I said, the dye comes out of them. But they're the softest bristles, and they're amazing for doing some coloring. So actually I'm going to take the heart out and not do that right now. Okay, so you just pick up some of your ink on the blending brush, and then just sponge over. Now, like I said, my piece on the card that I'm using today was actually a leftover piece from that other card. So I was creating, and probably what I should have done is put a piece of basic white cardstock underneath this and actually sponge. You can see what you get, this beautiful image. Now I'm using shimmery white cardstock for this, just because I like the shimmer that it gives. But you can use basic white as well, and you can just keep sponging until you get the shade of color that you actually want. It's just so easy to color with these blending brushes. I found when I was using sponge daubers or sponges, I was getting, particularly with the sponge daubers, getting a circle, a dark circle in them, because there was a lot of ink concentrated, and I find I'm just able to control that and not get that dark circle there. Like I said, you can keep going on this until you get it as dark as you want. Now I'm just going to do the same with the heart. Your fingers will get a little red with this, I have to say, but it washes off. I'm trying to get this a little bit darker. than my my flower image. There we go. Okay. All right, so that's that part. So I can start assembling my card. I've got a piece of all of the written instructions as well as the measurements will be or are on my blog, and the link to that blog is underneath this video. So you can, if you don't get them written down, you can go out and get the instructions. So this is 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 by 11, and it's folded in half at 5 1/2 to give you your card base. I've got a piece of basic white that is cut 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. We're just going to have just a little peekaboo of white, so you can adhere that down. That. And then this is the True Love Designer Series paper, and this is cut 4 inches by 5 1/2, or sorry, 4 inches by 5 1/4. Put that on here. Okay. Now the next step is to adhere this. Now you can do this in a couple of ways. You can use your multi-purpose liquid glue. You can use, what I'm going to do is just take little bits of Stampin' Seal on these larger pieces, and it will hold it in place. Or you can use your liquid glue to put it in place, but I'm not popping this up. I'm there we go, and that'll hold it in place. But I am going to pop up the heart in the middle. And just put dimensionals off the back. And put the heart popped up in the middle. There we go. Now the next part of this is one of the dies that I showed you was this amazing banner. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to stamp the happy anniversary, and I'm going to emboss it with white embossing powder. So I'm going to use Versamark. So before you fold your banner, because there are score lines on it, you want to just take it and get your happy anniversary stamp. Now you won't be able to see this. Stamp it, and then bring a piece of scrap in. And I'm using white embossing powder. I'll put that off to the side. Put this back in its container. And close this up before I spill it, which I have been known to do. All right, now I'm going to bring in my heat tool. Be a little loud for just a minute or two. And while I do it, so when you're heat embossing, I know I've shared this before, is just keep your heat tool in one spot until you see it start to melt, and then you can start to move it around. Once it starts to melt, there we go, you can actually start to move it, and it goes fairly quickly. Try not to burn your fingers. If it still looks dull and a matte finish, it is not fully melted. There we go. Oh, see, just dropped my trimmer. Oh, okay. So now you probably can't see these, but there are 2 score lines on each end. So what you want to do is fold those score lines. So fold up. So you fold that piece back, the first score line, and then fold it forward. So it gives you this. So again, back on the most inner score line and forward on the outer. So you get this really cool banner effect. And then I'm going to take and use some dimensionals to pop the middle up. And one on each of the edges. You could use glue dots as well to hold these pieces, these outer pieces, the flaps, in place, but I find that this actually works pretty well. And I'm just going to put that, oops, to make sure those pieces are tucked before you actually adhere it down. So tucked underneath it, and then press down, and they will hold in place very nicely. So, okay, so there's my card. You could put some embellishments, rhinestones and things, but there's lots going on in this card with the background, so I didn't. So this is, like I said, a great way to use up a stencil that you may have used. So if I bring in my card, this is how it got created. So I used that stencil to stamp, to sponge, using my blending brushes and make this image on the back. And then I used the piece that was really, in some ways, throwaway for the middle of the card. All right, let me just switch back. So I hope you enjoyed that. Gives you other ways to use your die cuts than just cutting out the images. This is using it to color and to stencil on. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you have questions, please just leave them underneath the video or on my blog, and I'm happy to respond to those questions. And while you're here, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'd love for you to get notified when I do more videos. So thanks for joining me. Bye, everybody.